Bordered by the Summer and Jade Seas, Sothoryos was a continent little understood but greatly feared by the people of Westeros, as the information available named it a land of vicious wildlife, savage natives, and deadly diseases, with stories sometimes seeming to stray from credulity into mythology. Although a number of civilizations attempted to explore the heavily jungled continent, only its northern coast was properly mapped, meaning the land's full size and shape remained unknown, along with any possible civilizations or wildlife populating those unexplored regions. Masterful sailors living west of Sothoryos, rumors say Summer Islanders may have mapped the southern half of the continent, but refuse to share this information with outsiders. A vast land of bountiful resources, stories claim many different species once inhabited the continent, such as lizardmen and eyeless cave dwellers, who were either driven to extinction or migration, forced further south, leaving the Sothori or brindled men as the dominant native population of the north. A large, well-muscled people said to have thick, dark skin brindled with white patterns, as well as broad, flat noses, sloped foreheads, huge square teeth, heavy jaws, and coarse black hair. Though some considered them intellectually inferior, they were highly prized for their strength and skill as warriors, making excellent pit fighters. In order to interact and trade with passing vessels, the Sothori living along the northern coast learned trade talk, a guttural mix of words from many different languages, which over time became a common form of communication between disparate travelers around the world. Yet while these northern populations were relatively easy to exploit and capture as slaves, traveling further south meant encountering natives far more fearsome and territorial, with rumors claiming they practiced cannibalism and horrific religious rituals in worship of dark gods. Yet the native Sothori represented only a minor danger to foreign visitors when compared to the far deadlier threat of diseases running rampant throughout the continent, like blood boils, bronze pate, brown leg, the dancing plague, grayscale, green fever, pus eye, red death, sailor's bane, sweet rot, wormbone, and yellow gum. The Westerosi scholar Archmaester Ebooks, who studied centuries worth of accounts by travelers to the east, determined that on average, 9 of every 10 Westerosi travelers to Sothoryos would contract an illness, and of those half would die. If that were not enough, the continent was also home to a wide array of dangerous wildlife, including giant apes, large enough to knock out an elephant with a single blow, basilisks, crocodiles, carnivorous fish, stinging flies, huge deadly snakes, wasps, worms, white vampire bats from a region called the Green Hell, tattooed lizards, and vicious wyverns, aggressive winged beasts possibly kin to dragons, similar in appearance, though without the ability to breathe fire. Yet despite these dangers, Sothoryos continued to attract visitors, and eventually invaders, as it was a resource-rich land of untold possibilities. While little was known about the continent's pre-colonial history, explorers discovered a number of intriguing clues over the years, including the ruins of Yin, an old abandoned city made of oily black stone, the same material seemingly used to create a giant toad statue on the nearby Isle of Toads, and many other ancient constructs throughout the world, like the Seastone Chair of the Iron Islands and the buildings in Ashai. Further, the stone blocks used to build Yin were enormous, requiring a dozen elephants to move. Though nothing was known of those who built this city or its original inhabitants, Yin was believed cursed, as every other attempt to settle the area ended in catastrophe. When the ancient Cathy people first discovered Sothoryos, they depicted it as an island twice the size of Great Morak, but as time went on, they realized their error when no explorer could find the southernmost edge. The first known power to colonize Sothoryos, the Giscari Empire, established the walled city of Zamitar at the mouth of the Zamios River, the penal colony of Garrosh at Wyvern Point, and the city of Gorgai on the Isle of Tears, just north of the continent in the Basilisk Isles. When the Dragon Lords of the Valyrian Freehold rose to rival the Giscari Empire, they too settled Sothoryos, establishing 3 colonies on Basilisk Point, losing the first to a raid by brindled men, and second to disease. Yet their fortunes turned when Valyria captured the city of Gorgai in the Third Giscari War, converting it into the penal colony Gogosos. They then abandoned their Third Basilisk Point colony after Valyria's victory in the Fourth Giscari War, moving their people into the newly acquired city of Zamitar. During the Age of Valyria, the dragon rider Rhaenyra Belaris flew her dragon Terrax as far south as possible, hoping to find the southernmost edge of Sothoryos, but after 3 years returned home, claiming to have found only jungle, deserts, and mountains, calling it a land without end. Holding Zamitar for a time, the harsh conditions of the continent eventually led the Valyrians to abandon the city, allowing Princess Nymeria and her Rhoynar refugees to settle the region around 700 BC. Legends say Nymeria led 10,000 ships from their homeland along the River Rhoyne to escape conquest by the Valyrians, establishing settlements along Basilisk Point, as well as repopulating the cities of Zamitar and the ruins of Yin. Yet over the course of their first year, they suffered so many raids and plagues, it was clear they could not remain. The final calamity occurred after two newly found towns were sacked by raiders when a ship journeyed south from Zamitar along the river Zamios, only to discover the entire population of Yin vanished overnight. Believing the city cursed, Nymeria remarked how even after thousands of years, the black stone buildings were never reclaimed by nature, calling it a city so evil that even the jungle will not enter. Convinced they must depart these lands, Nymeria gathered as many remaining Rhoynar as possible and sailed west in search of a new home, eventually settling in Dorne. With so many failed attempts to colonize the continent, Zamitar was the only major settlement to sustain a significant population for an extended period of time, but eventually it too fell and was replaced as the greatest city of the region by Gagossos, the former penal colony, which thrived after the doom of Valyria, becoming a major slave port on par with the city-states of Slaver's Bay. Known as the 10th Free City during the Century of Blood, Gagossos was poised to become a major power in the region until the city was ravaged by the Red Death in 25 BC, a horrifying plague which killed 9 of every 10 residents, destroying the city and its trade empire. In the wake of this power vacuum, the Basilisk Isles became a refuge for criminals, pirates, exiles, and prostitutes. Though Sothoryos remained a mysterious continent to many in Westeros, at least some information about these lands was collected over the years, which could not be said for the lands of Ulthos at the very edges of the known world, a faraway continent for which almost no information existed. Maps of the region suggest Ulthos might be heavily jungled with a river on its western coast and ruined city on the nearby island of Ulos. Given its distance to Westeros and proximity to other near-mythical locations like Ashai and the Shadow Mountains, little reliable information about the region could be gathered, with maesters uncertain whether it was even an independent continent or just a large island, with some even suggesting it might be connected to Sothoryos or Essos. A special thanks to all those who contribute to CivilizationEx, like Lady J Book Nerd, Barachado, Tio the Iron Banker, and Tamika the Black Wolf. If you'd like to help the channel, be sure to give a like, leave a comment, subscribe, and click on the links below, or else go to patreon.com/CivilizationEx, where you can gain early access to videos, vote on future content, and watch the Patreon-only series, Heroes of Lore and Legend.